in the event of death, what happens to your bank account?
Yeah.
And you said, well, it's liquid. It's the first thing to go. Like, what the hell does that mean?
Okay, right. In the event of death, what happens to your bank account? Well, your bank account.
I didn't know the answer, okay? I didn't know the answer. That's all there is to it. However, people like me were still gonna guess because I had just taken a life insurance course, right? I thought I probably knew what was up, but my dad schooled me. And you'll hear what I learned in this moment. My dad taught me what POD means. He also taught me what TOD means. And what your financial planner should be doing for you so that you can also know this information at any given moment. The thing is, we're assumed to know all of this information, even though people, especially people who look like me, don't necessarily have the benefits of sitting down with family members in order to have these certain types of conversations. So that's what this is. This is me opening up my home and my family to you so that we can all learn and grow and maybe make some smarter money moves.
In the event of death, what happens to your bank account?
Yeah.
And you said, well, it's liquid. It's the first thing to go. Like, what the hell does that mean?
Okay, right. In the event of death, what happens to your bank account? Your bank account is what they call a liquid asset, right? So that means that it has to cover, it's the first thing that would cover any current debts or whatever that you owe.
No, it's liquid like hell. It's going to be like putting water in the freezer. It's going to turn to ice. They don't freeze it.
Oh, they freeze it.
Right? So, yeah, this is the problem, right? It's liquid and it's going to become frozen. So on your bank account, it's very important that you give it a title. You have to go in and ask your bank because the bank, now the new fintech banks are smart. I tell you, these young kids are smart as hell. The old people don't know anything. So in the old days, it's like you just set up a bank account and you have to go in and make the inquiry to the bank and say something like, I want to set up a beneficiary. And depending on who you work with, they might say, we don't have beneficiaries. But here's the bottom line. You have to go in and ask or make the request, or even in the fintech space, you have to go in and put P-O-D, pay on death.
P-O-D, okay.
Pay on death. Instantaneously. So there's operational law, wills, trust. That's kind of the order of things, right? So like, for example, a life insurance policy named a beneficiary. Means comes straight to you, notwithstanding all these other items, right? Wills, trust, and so forth. Those are further down the line. So you're gonna make your bank account the same way, so that in the event of your death, all I need to do is walk right in, present a certificate, death certificate, and keep it moving. I don't have to go through all of these other things and file for affidavit of small estate or wait till probate. I have to wait. That's the bottom line. And so pay on death would mean that it instantaneously pays you out. Contrast that would say, I have a broker. For me, FinTech E-Trade, or if you have, say, for example, Merrill Lynch or one of these like storefront brokers, you don't want pay on death because chances are the day you die is the worst day to sell all your stocks. The worst. And that's precisely what would happen if you have POD there. So it's gonna sell everything and pay you out. So what we want instead of pay on death, we want a TOD, transfer on death.
Okay.
That way it transfers from my name, but then you determine when to pull the trigger, sale, if you decide at all.
Right.
You follow? That's very, 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 very different orders, but those are very useful. And when you're setting up the accounts, nothing will prompt you or ask you these things. So they're overlooked.
Okay, so for bank account, you want to set up POD, that's pay on death. Figure out who that person is, right? That you want your money to go to, right? Yeah. Your beneficiary, your bill, your child, whatever it may be, and put POD next to their name. But for investments,
security accounts and things of that nature,
things of that nature, you do TOD, which means transfer on death. Because perhaps the stocks are still going up and you've since deceased. You just want to transfer all of that information to your boo or your child or that person that you feel like would be responsible with your stocks after your passing.
So now contrast that too against something else like that pays out directly that people I experience want to go from worse to better. So they have life insurance, pays out immediately, no questions asked, no complications, right to someone. And then I'm going to put it in my trust. It's like, who told you to do that? Well, my lawyer. Probably not what they said, but that's what you thought you heard. Right? It's possible that's what they said. That gets into a whole other area. We can cover that on a different day. But that thing goes directly to a beneficiary. Leave it as is. Same thing with annuities. I believe your retirement plan, identical. And so retirement plan, annuities, life insurances, things like that, Chelsea, you just want to go ahead and just have them go directly to a beneficiary.
Okay.
Right? You don't need that thing going into a trust and then suffering the consequences that go with that complication. Right?
Yes.
Now, not that that item's complicated in and of itself, but it's kind of like putting bread in a bread box, putting the bread box in the refrigerator. Starts to make things more complicated than they ought to be. Right? Whereas a trust, by its very nature, is designed and set up so that facilitating the transfer of your estate is eased. And so the reason that happens is because in a trust, different than a will, and I'm not trying to be the lawyer here, but I've worked with God knows enough of them. So, but in the trust, the whole idea there is essentially nothing or no one has died. So be analogous to owning like a corporation, a new manager. This is just I'm giving you the layman terms of thinking about this.
Yes.
The new manager takes over.
Yeah.
That's very different than having to go through the process of, someone died. So now we have to do the claims of who's the next in charge. So we need all the proofs, right? We have to prove that the house is theirs. How much is the house worth? We have to prove that you're in charge to prove that the house is theirs, right? And all these proofs, and that's what takes so much time in what's called probate court, right? All the proving and reproving and so on and so forth. So when a person says a will is better than a trust, that's untrue on its surface. The hammer's not a better tool than the screwdriver unless you need to drive a nail. All these things are just tools in a toolbox, which are beautiful when they're properly used. They're a disaster when improperly used. Like a jackhammer, great. You want to tear out your driveway, put a new one in. But a baby goes walking by, a jackhammer that's active, that thing could be, not very good, right? So is the tool bad? No. Is a gun bad? It's a tool. Not bad.
Controversial.
All the people using them, all the people in which they get the hands of, not good.
Yeah.
So I'm not condoning guns. I ain't with that program. I'm just trying to give you an illustrative example that tools are tools. Right? And so it depends on what's done with that thing. So a trust, for example, can be a better arrangement. And by the way, all the trusts have a pour-over will. So the will is inside the trust, right? It's part of it. And so, but two, you could draft a will and have some trust provisions, if you will, simply put, effectuated there and end up paying less money. So which is better or worse? Well, it depends on circumstance and time, but these tools, suffice it to say, have to be set up properly.
Yes.
So many of them are set up improperly because titling function isn't finished. Or say, for example, there's another one that I experienced in the industry, in the field. A person will go and have a trust drafted or try to do the doc in a box trust. Oh God, right? And then the lawyer, for example, no particular one, but they might say something like, okay, go fund it. So since most of these people really don't give two pieces of anything besides the in God we trust, but in this here I trust, the money, right? Since they don't care really much about anything beyond that thingy, the money, then they'll say go fund, as if GoFundMe, is that a page, right? So what happens, the consumer walks out and goes, great, got my big bucket of binder papers of what? Nothing, right? I have not gone and taken my house and did it and retitled it and given it the name of the trust, right? So go fund it just simply means go take your documents and have the titling changed so that they are now this thing's ownership, right? And so that's what those kinds of things, loose terms, mean. The problem is the consumer doesn't know what they don't know. And many professionals aren't reaching out to help them. Like I said, they'll collect in the in this here we trust. It says in God we trust, but they should change it in this here, right? Right? So that's because we don't trust in no God, we trust in money. That's all we trust in, and particularly here. So that's all I've learned. So since you can't get the professionals to help you the right way, you got to figure out some way to get them to share with you more, or you have to do a little bit more research, or if they say something that you think you know and understand but aren't 100% sure, you have to drill down. You have to know when to drill down.
Right.
So on the way out of the office, when they say something like parenthetically, oh, make sure to go fund it. Say, can you explain what that means? Right? Until you get an answer that's satisfactory.
Right.
So that's what happens. Then when you're at the bank, oh, I set up my account. It's everything. In the event of my demise, what would happen? Oh, you have to do this piece. Well, why didn't you tell me that? You get it? And so when I call the company and say, I want to take my insurance and put it into a trust, say, is there anyone there to say, stop. Just tell me briefly why. I'm not going to tell you yes or no. I just want to make sure you don't run off a cliff. So we don't have the checks and balances in place. So this is why people need these additional pieces of information. So is it liquid? Yes, the bank account's liquid, but it's going to be frozen.
You heard it here first.
Whoa, that was a lot. But I told you it was a lot, right? A lot of good stuff. So here's what you learned. POD. That means pay on death. Your bank account should have that acknowledgement somewhere so that when you leave this earth, your beneficiaries are immediately given those funds. TOD. That means transfer on death. If you have any investments, anything that you might not actually want closed when it's notified that you have left this earth, then go ahead and assign TOD to it, because you want to transfer all of that information over to the person you believe is best equipped to handle your affairs. And perhaps most importantly, if your financial planner is telling you lots and lots and lots and lots of jargon that you don't understand, say, pause. Please explain X, Y, and Z to me, and stay. I mean, sit right there until they explain it in a way that makes sense to you. This is a time where we need to be knowledgeable, but we also need to ask questions and have answers that we can understand and digest so that we can plan accordingly. Thank you so very much for watching our first video in this series. More to come.